This is Nebraska Farmcast from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Center for Agricultural Profitability. I'm Ryan Evans. When children earn wages on the family farm, they are often placed in a savings or 529 account. But Jessica Groskopf, an agricultural economist with Nebraska Extension and the Center for Ag Profitability, also encourages families to look at opening a custodial Roth IRA account, which can have greater earning potential than savings accounts and more flexibility than 529 accounts, among other considerations. Groskopf, along with Doug Nelson, an adjunct professor with UNL's Child, Youth, and Family Studies Department, has authored a new article comparing Roth IRAs to traditional savings accounts and 529 plans. That's available on our website at cap.unl.edu, and she joins me now to talk more about it. Hi, Jessica.
Hey, Ryan.
So first, why are we thinking about this issue right now?
Yeah, so as summer approaches, I think, parents and grandparents are thinking about their kids and grandchildren about that summer job. And oftentimes we see, especially adults, encouraging them to have one, and then also using that as an opportunity to teach about savings and investments. And so this is the perfect time of year to start planning for those kids to come home and potentially begin working on the farm or ranch or at an in-town job.
And can you explain what exactly a Roth IRA is?
Yeah, so a Roth IRA is an individual retirement account, and it's a special type of account that allows people who earn income, in this case we're talking about kids, contribute their after-tax earnings to this account. And it's really an interesting tool when we think about the fact that the best thing we can do for savings and investments is provide them time. So if we're talking about a younger investor, a Roth IRA might be a really cool tool that they can use to build wealth and save for things like education or even into the future, whether that's their first home purchase or ultimately their retirement.
So what are some of the requirements involved with a Roth IRA?
So what's interesting about a Roth IRA account is that it does not have an age limit. It just requires someone to have earnings to be able to contribute to it. So we really like Roth IRAs because they allow us to put in after-tax dollars. So that means unlike a traditional IRA, what we're doing is after we've paid taxes on those earnings, then we'll contribute to the IRA. Those contributions will hopefully then be reinvested over time, and then you'll retain earnings on that. So that Roth IRA is really interesting from the standpoint that it allows that child to have lots of time to build compound interest on their earnings. It also is interesting because it creates two types of money within the account. You have the initial contributions, and then you have the earnings on those contributions. Like a traditional account, they encourage you not to withdraw that money before age 59 and a half. But there are two really important exceptions to that rule. First, they will allow you to withdraw those contributions at any time, which is why we like it for, again, young investors, because it acts somewhat like a savings account. Then when it comes to earnings, if we withdraw before 59 and a half, we pay a 10% penalty. So there are two exceptions to that, and that is if those earnings are used to pay qualified education expenses, or up to $10,000 of that can be withdrawn to purchase a first-time home. So again, looking at that Roth retirement account, it really becomes that opportunity to have flexibility within the account. It acts somewhat as a savings account, but also has that earnings and potential from an investment account.
And great, particularly for young people, as you're talking about here. And just as families are comparing their options, everybody's probably pretty familiar with a traditional savings account. Can you just review quickly what a 529 account is?
So a 529 account is a tax-advantaged college savings plan, and it's also an investment account, but the money in that account must be used for qualified education expenses. What's interesting about a 529 is it has no earned income requirement, and anyone can contribute it. So mom and dad, aunt and uncle, the child themselves could all contribute to that 529 account. But again, that must be used specifically for education expenses. So it's a little bit limited. There's some flexibility. You can change who the beneficiary of that account is. But again, we've got to use those dollars specifically for education expenses. Otherwise, we pay a penalty on them.
And you've hit on a lot of possible advantages of Roth IRAs so far. Can you maybe just expand more on why you think they would often be worth looking at compared to traditional savings or 529 accounts, especially for young people?
Sure. So let's walk through the difference then between the savings account and the Roth IRA. So a savings account, of course, is a great place. It's a safe place to put money, but the potential earnings of that account is much lower than if it were in an investment account. So one of the challenges with it is that yes, you do earn some interest, but it's not at the rate that we would see in an investment account like we would see in that Roth IRA or that 529. The other thing is there's no tax advantages to contributing to a regular savings account. So again, giving money to the 529 or to the Roth IRA does have advantages, maybe not immediately, but down the road for that account to, again, earn and accrue interest. So then we look at, okay, what about the difference between the 529 and the Roth IRA? So with the 529, as I stated, it's specifically for educational expenses, and it have to be qualified education expenses, so tuition, things like that. And maybe you have a child or a grandchild who you're not sure what right now their career path is or what type of education that they will need in the future. And so sometimes it's hard to contribute to an account like that without knowing, what they really want to do. So maybe you're putting in a significant amount of money and then they decide on a different path for their life. So that 529 account is a great tool. Its advantages are that there's no earned income requirement for it and that anyone can contribute to it. When we get to the Roth, and why I think a Roth is really an interesting option, is for those children who have earned income. It just really creates this awesome flexibility. So as I think about a Roth IRA account, it's similar to a savings account that any contributions I put into it, I can take out at any time penalty free. Then if I get to the earnings amount within that account, then if I'm using that for qualified education expenses, I don't pay the penalty. Or if I'm using up to $10,000 of that for my first time home purchase, I'm not paying that penalty. Another really important part of Roth IRAs is that they do not count against the free application for student federal aid or the FAFSA application. So that's another place where, again, we're not counting against that child when they go to apply for federal aid. So that's something that's really interesting about a Roth IRA as well.
Because that can sometimes happen, correct, especially with a savings account?
Yeah, correct. So both the savings account and the 529 account could potentially count against or impact that federal student aid. So it really is a balance of what's best for your family. Think through those different options, and maybe you don't qualify or that child doesn't qualify for the Roth IRA. But if they are earning income, either from an on-farm or an off-farm job, they can contribute up to $6,000 per year right now into that account. So very, very interesting opportunity. And there's lots more details. I encourage you, if you're comfortable with investing, that's great. But if you're not, work closely with a certified financial planning professional, a certified public accountant, a tax preparer, and or an investment advisor when you're comparing the options between a savings account, a 529, and a Roth IRA.
Great. And in that vein, are there any potential drawbacks associated with Roths that you might urge families to look into or caution them about?
There's always risk when we're putting money into investments. And I encourage folks, this is a long-term game. This is a long run. deal. So we want to make sure that if we're going to contribute to something, whether it's a Roth IRA or a different investment, that we're putting that money in there for the long run, because there is changes in the marketplace, and there is a potential for loss, but over the long term, we'll see a gain in that amount.
And you mentioned how folks can reach out to financial advisors or do their own research online to set up a Roth or another account. What is your advice to people? What's the right age to start this for kids, and how can they get started?
I would say as soon as they're earning an income, I would encourage a Roth IRA, even if you have a 529 or another savings account that's available to them, because that potential for that growth, especially if we're willing to leave that money in for the long term, is wonderful. So if we're able to start at 12, 13, maybe even 15, that really provides them that opportunity to have that investment grow over time. And again, the most powerful tool that we can give our children for savings and investment is that time, which allows for that compound interest to really make a difference in the growth of those accounts.
Great. Well, that's Jessica Groskopf, an extension agricultural economist with the Center for Ag Profitability here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And you can find a new article that she has written on this topic on our website for the Center for Ag Profitability at cap.unl.edu. Thanks so much, Jessica.
Thanks, Ryan.
Nebraska Farmcast is a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For the latest research-based information and education resources to manage your farm or ranch operation, visit our website at cap.unl.edu. That's cap.unl.edu.